And welcome to Hannity. And tonight, his highly anticipated tell-all should be making the Clinton campaign very nervous tonight. In his brand new book, Crisis of Character, a White House Secret Service officer discloses his firsthand experience with Hillary, Bill, and how they operate. Gary Byrne details what the Clintons are like, far away from the public eye. Now, he has a lot to share, so let's get things started. Joining us now on an exclusive is former Secret Service officer Gary Byrne. How are you? Good to see you, sir.
Thank you, Sean.
You wanted to be a Secret Service officer your whole life.
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
And you got that coveted job right in front of the Oval Office.
I did. It came true. Yeah, it was great.
Pretty amazing. I know that the left is going to smear, slander, besmirch you. You're ready for that, right?
Sure, I am. And it's already started.
It's already started.
Yeah.
Before the book comes out. You know, I love how they smear you before they even know what you wrote.
Yeah.
I'm going to start at the end of the book, because you talk about why you wrote this book. You said, what I learned from the Clintons firsthand the hard way is important. In 2016, she's running again, and you felt compelled to tell the story because why? Let me ask that.
Because I want Americans to know what the real Clinton administration is like. Mrs. Clinton is not a leader. She's a very, very angry person all the time. I've seen many instances that I talk about in my book, Crisis of Character, where she displays this holier-than-thou attitude, do as I say, not as I do. She's a dictator. She comes across as a dictator. I've seen her berate many people, and myself included. And I've never seen any example that would lead me to believe that she could lead this country. I mean,
you know, you describe a woman that is very phony. In other words, you talk about how she'd tell you to go to hell or tell another agent to go blank himself.
Correct.
And how she threw a Bible at a Secret Service officer or agent.
Agent. Yes, sir.
Okay, and the vase story, which we'll get to in a minute.
Right.
But if the cameras were on, she was close to Bill, but it was manufactured. It was not real.
Absolutely.
Camera goes off, different person.
Yeah.
And if she had guests, she'd say, oh, he's my favorite Secret Service guy.
Sure. She actually did that to me one time when she berated me about an hour before over something and then introduced me to this tour from Arkansas, a group of people that were getting a special tour, and told them what a wonderful, I was her favorite officer, and patted me on the back, and almost to the point where, like, I almost believed her, but I knew what the truth was. Yeah. I'd seen this behavior before.
You said, and with Hillary Clinton's latest rise, I realized her own leadership style, volcanic, impulsive, enabled by sycophants, disdainful of the rules set for everyone else, has not changed a bit. A lot has been made about temperament and the temperament of a president.
Yes.
You're describing someone by far that does not have control of her emotions or temperament.
Yeah. She exhibits some very dangerous behavior, as I would describe it. She gets angry at things that are policy issues that, you know, take time to fix, and she's got this attitude where she wants things fixed right now, immediedely. She screams and yells at people, and there's procedures. You know, government is very bogged down with rules and regulations, and so yeah, there's many examples that I cite in my book where she blows up at people. Like I said, she's blown up at me before, and agents and her staff. At one time, I saw her staff so afraid to tell her about a mistake that was made. They weren't upset about the waste of the mistake, ordering the wrong invitations. They were terrified that someone was going to have to tell Hillary Clinton that there was a mistake made.
Well, by the way, you're not the only one to say this. George Stephanopoulos, he described her as having a horrible temper. Dee Dee Myers is another person. And you even quoted George, I know, in the book.
Yes.
And then you write, though portrayed as a long-suffering spouse of an unfaithful husband whose infidelities I personally observed, and we'll get to that in a minute, and know to be true, she was anything but a sympathetic victim. Correct.
Their relationship seemed so strange and volatile at times, and she would continuously berate people, as I mentioned before, but she was like two different people. Again, she would be polite and nice to everybody when the cameras were on, and then when they were off, she was just cold, distant.
Seconds later.
Just almost instantly. I mean, that's what I've experienced quite a few times.
Yeah. All right, you tell a couple of stories, and I think our audience would want to hear them.
Sure.
One story is the vase story.
Sure.
The other story is the blue glove story.
Right.
And I think they give some insight into what you saw on a regular basis.
Sure. So the vase story is, I came in one morning to go to work early, came in, worked out, and then as I headed over to the post, I ran into residence workers that were going home, and they said, oh, you better go over and see your buddy. We had a problem last night. So I went over to the mansion post on the ground floor, and I said, what's going on? And I heard something happen. They said, Mr. and Mrs. Clinton had this horrendous fight. It was so loud that the staff people on the ground had walked away, from the elevator shaft. The sound was coming down, and then they heard a crash. And then when it was investigated, they saw a broken vase on the floor. Now, this has been reported to be not true, and they reported it that a lamp was thrown. Well, a lamp wasn't thrown, a vase was.
Now, the vase was on one side of the room,
right,
and broken on the other side of the room.
Right. The vase sat on a long oblong table that was in the
so it didn't fall.
I doubt it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it looked like it had been launched and it was shattered. And then the reason I know this is true is because when I heard the story, after I heard it, having worked at the White House and know how the White House works, I knew if something like that had happened where the debris would be. So I walked down to the curator's office and looked inside the curator's office, and there was a cardboard box with the mostly blue and some white on it, base. Yeah. So I knew it was true.
Yeah. Tell us a story about the blue glove.
So the blue glove incident. You're
talking about like medical gloves.
Right. The uniform division officers are required to wear these gloves, and
for everybody.
Yeah, when you're searching people.
Right.
And Congressman Barney Frank came in with some representatives, and as they were putting the gloves on, and Congressman Frank asked why they were wearing the gloves, and he said, the officer said, why do you think? And so they felt like the uniform division was being rude to them. So when they got into the mansion, they started complaining about it. And when it got to Mrs. Clinton, she pretty much came unglued. I actually got phone calls from my coworkers over there that told me the story and said she was on her way over to the Oval Office, that she was furious.
You tell that it ended up that she literally went down to the Oval Office to see Bill Clinton.
Yes.
Wanting all the agents fired.
All the uniform division officers.
All the uniform division officers fired.
Yes.
They were always against us from the beginning because they had worked for former President George H.W. Bush.
Right. She was paranoid about us, and for no reason. I know it sounds silly for me to say this now because I'm talking about it, but we're incredibly loyal to them. And many times, as I detail in my book, Crisis of Character, I tried to help them. I tried to do the right thing for them and hide some of this stuff, but you couldn't help them. It's this perpetual scandal, one after the other. It's like you can't help them help themselves.
Yeah. And this temper issue of hers was not uncommon. This was a regular, you described somebody that has almost on a daily basis.
Sure. Maybe a daily basis, not so much, but certainly a lot. I saw it so much that I became numb to it almost. And I always go back to what I was told by a sheriff from Arkansas one time. And we were debating whether they would get elected. This is before they started running. I was down there on a protection detail for former President George Herbert Walker Bush. And the guy said, let me tell you something about these people, Gary. I've known them for years. Everything you hear about them's true, and if they run for office, they'll get elected, and they'll be there for 8 years.
Yeah.
And he wasn't just, he was serious as a heart attack. He almost looked right through me. And he knew these people deep, well.
Yeah.
So it's just the same thing that we heard about in Arkansas, all these rumors, it became true at the White House.
And would these fights be something common knowledge? Everybody knew there was a lot of fighting. Look, I know
we did a pretty good job of hiding it. We helped them hide it. That's our job in this Secret Service.
You helped them also hide his infidelity.
Well, yeah, I did. I mean, I did. At one time when the Navy steward came and was complaining to me near the Oval Office that he had found these towels that were stained with lipstick and other and some fluids, that he was concerned and that he was tired of cleaning up after the president's affair. And in two particular cases, one particular case, I actually took the towels from him, Sean, and put them in a plastic bag, and I destroyed them.
I want to get back to that in a second here, but you describe her as dangerous, abusive, and paranoid.
Yes. Yes, one of the first things when they first came to the White House, about 2 years before they got there, the Bush administration put in this brand new state-of-the-art telephone system. Well, when they came in, they wanted to change because they thought the Bush administration...
Bush has bugged them?
Right.
Yeah. That's kind of paranoid.
Yeah, and it sounds so crazy when you think about it. And so they went and had the phone system changed and they didn't know it cost money. They actually didn't have the money to pay for it at the time.
Before I get into all the issues involving Bill and her and what she knew or didn't know and covering up and lying and you being put in the middle of all this, people use drugs at the White House?
Yeah, there were some issues. One of the ones I comment in my book, and I'm very careful not to tell too much about it because I don't want, hopefully this person got on with their lives and live a healthy life. But there was this one particular staff member that they'd come in the morning and they'd be so beat up and exhausted looking, worn out. Exhausted, and to the point where they couldn't even say good morning. And they'd go in their office, and then they'd go into the bathroom, and they'd come out of the bathroom completely elevated and happy and smiling. And
it was obvious you thought coke was being used.
I did, and then later on, I was told that this particular person actually they did it like something similar to an intervention and got her help and got her to a clinic, and I never did see her again, but I understand she did all right. So.
Okay.